And we're live. There we go.
All right.
So Justin, take it away.
Sure. Hey everyone, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, or even good morning if you are on the other side of where I am. I'm Justin and I'm from Singapore. And today joining us is actually Urban from Web3 Foundation. And it's an opportunity for us to kick off a pre-hackathon community event. As all of you who are currently here are pretty much aware about Polkadot Hackathon that's going global, and the first stop is actually happening in Asia Pacific itself. So today, with me and Urban, we will bring you through some of the high-level understanding on what the Polkadot Hackathon Asia Pacific edition is going to be, and to just give you a general idea of what to expect at the hackathon itself, and what are the cool prizes that's up for win and all. And most importantly, for those who have not joined us for the hackathon, it's the opportunity to understand a little bit more before you decide to join us at the hackathon. Apart from the both of us, we do have two more speakers who will be sharing a little bit more about Polkadot and Substrate itself, and which will be Radha and Sacha. They will take the stage a little bit later on to just share a little bit from their perspective about Polkadot and also Substrate, to give you a general understanding before we kind of round it up what the hackathon is going to be. So Urban, maybe you would like to tell us a little bit more about the hackathon itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Justin, and welcome everybody. Like Justin said, we are kicking off with a pre-hackathon event for the Asia Pacific leg. Now, I think we toned it down a little bit on the Global Series event, but you folks are actually kicking off a whole series of events. We call it simply the Polkadot Hackathon Global Series. It's going to come with a couple of different stages. Hopefully, we're going to be able to cover the whole planet. That's kind of the goal of it. And as said, we are starting in Asia Pacific. Now, just to put it out there, if somebody is particularly passionate about a specific part of the planet and really wants to help out, maybe from the community side, from the technical education and mentorship side, and so on, please get in touch. We're more than happy to kind of have you on board. Now, with that said, let's have a look at what we're going to be kicking on very, very soon. As said, this is the pre-hackathon event. So as opposed to, if you've been around for a while, you know that we've done a few hackathons in the past, and we usually just try to kick it off and we get the ball going, we get it running, and essentially the hackathon starts. Now with this one, we have our friends from AngelHack on board, and they suggested let's try something different, and we are. So this is kind of the pre-hackathon period, where we essentially just want to put out enough information for you so that you actually have a fruitful 7 weeks of hacking. Now, with that said, the event is officially going to start on the 22nd of this month. So I think we're a couple of days away, but you will have 7 weeks, a little bit more than 7 weeks actually, of hacking. Now, that means that we should be finishing up by the 12th of December. So fingers crossed, we really want to finish and wrap this up before Christmas. But I think we are quite on schedule. We fought this very hard to get it up and running, and I think we're on track so far. Now, the hackathon, obviously, you have the ability to build a lot of stuff. Apparently, everybody here also wants to learn, not just compete for the prizes. So this is a fantastic opportunity to do exactly that. Essentially, learn about Polkadot, Substrate. Maybe you've been thinking, on something, hacking on something, building something. This could be a really, really good opportunity to kind of solidify that, to organize it a little bit better, and even I know we talk a lot about building and the prizes, and that's really, really important, but I think it's often neglected how important actually the social aspect of this is, right? You guys have the chance now to literally meet your maybe future co-founders or future employers or employees, right? So this is, or just future friends, right? Not everything is about work. So this is a really, really good opportunity to kind of now just get into the ecosystem and actually meet people around the world. Now, I'm saying around the world because yes, we're focusing on APAC, but ultimately, if you come from anywhere, we're not going to say no to you. So this is a very, very much open atmosphere that we're trying to create. I think really importantly, and this is something that we're trying to double down with this event and hopefully going into the future as well, resources, technical workshops, and mentor access is really, really important. We really want you to succeed. So, and deeply understand that Substrate and Polkadot can be quite difficult. If you just get into the blockchain space specifically, or you've been building in the Ethereum space and other blockchains, for instance, and you dive in into something like Substrate, it's definitely an onboarding experience, right? It's definitely something that you need to digest, and we really want you to succeed and have the best possible experience. So you actually have access to 7 different mentors. If in Discord you tag them at Hackathon Mentors, you should be able to get some response from them. So there's definitely people around to help you. We're going to have office hours, technical workshops. We're going into specific topics relevant for this hackathon, and much more. Right. Now, develop your skills in blockchain technology. Obviously, that's the goal. But like I said, it goes beyond that, right? Make friends, socialize, hang around, become part of the community. We're more than happy to have you here. Very warm, open, and welcoming people here. But yeah, ultimately, the bottom line: have fun. Now, speaking of the hackathon, we've designed 3 different categories or tracks, if you want to call them, and that are Build a Blockchain, OpenHack, and the Docathon. So for anybody who's been around, the Build a Blockchain and OpenHack is kind of a staple by this point. We basically want you to get your hands dirty with Substrate. That's essentially what the whole Build a Blockchain category is all about. It's about understanding what the difference is if you actually build a layer 1 blockchain. As Radha is going to tell you later on, Polkadot is, in comparison to other chains, it's set up in a different way. It's sort of, we tend to think of it as a meta protocol, right? So what you're witnessing right now actually is the launch of parachains. And we've got parachains in Kusama, which is kind of the canary network, but on Polkadot, they're just about to go live. So all of these are actually layer 1 blockchains, hence build a blockchain, right? Ultimately, you can have a chance to build a very specialized, unique blockchain that serves its purpose. Think of it as an NFT chain or a gaming chain or a DAO chain or something like that, which could ultimately become a part of Polkadot. It could win a slot and become a parachain. So this is a big one. The OpenHack is essentially a catch-it-all. We really want to see anything that, not everybody really thinks about building a blockchain or building apps and, down that road. But we also see a lot of wallets, infrastructure tooling, explorers, visualizers, dashboards, whatever doesn't fit into that build a blockchain category can go into the OpenHack category. Now, the Docathon is something that we're trying out for the first time. So if we don't get it right completely, please bear with us. Essentially, the goal of the Docathon is to see more documentation being built from the community, right? So we've got, obviously, if you've been around, go to substrate.io. The folks at Parity Technologies have done a wonderful job at building a new Substrate outlet. Docs.substrate.io is a fantastic site where essentially developers should be going. It's got everything from tutorials, guides, Rust documentation, and so on. But there's obviously more that can be done than just the official documentation. So this category is really about maybe you've built something in the past and you want to document it. You wanna put a video out explaining how you've done that. Maybe you have a guide on how do you build a specific pallet, how do you implement something like this in Substrate, and so on. So anything that's it can be text, it can be video, it can be guides, tutorials, documentation, anything that fits into that bucket is going to be accepted, is going to be definitely looked at. And I'm really, really curious to see what people kind of come up with. So Build a Blockchain has, let's say, 3+1 prizes. Obviously first, second, and third. And then we also have the public choice, which is going to be publicly voted on, so we don't get a say in that at all. Now, the cash prize is obviously 58522. But I think it's also worthwhile mentioning that there's, aside from the cash prizes, it's actually a little bit more to it. So we try to give out some sort of perks, not just here's the cash and get away. It's actually a little bit more. So we do try to work fairly closely with the winners. So you're going to be getting Polkadot engraved ledgers. We're going to feature you across the Polkadot social media. We're going to help you to get an expedited pitch session with the Substrate Builders program. Thankfully to Ray Lu and the Industry Connect guys, we have a 50% discount on the Substrate course. And obviously you're going to get some awesome swag. So there's a little bit more to it than just the cash prize. The open hack, very similar, but we just have the first prize and the public choice with all the other perks, obviously, as well as the Docathon. Now the Docathon has 5 first prizes. It's $2,000 each and a couple of the perks as well. But I think having 5 first prizes is really kind of gives a playing field, level playing field. It gives a nice feel to it. It's not just you need to win every category. You actually get a chance to be first if you're not just the one person. So one thing that I really want to stress, and I think this is extremely important for everybody who is just diving into the Polkadot ecosystem. We operate this for quite a while. Actually, Polkadot Pathways is a really cool gamified way of diving into the ecosystem. So thank you, Justin, for pasting that. So essentially what we devised here is a onboarding journey for you. This is a series of challenges that you can take. They come in 3 different channels. One is just about the hackathon, then it's about learning, and then it's about building. Now, the hackathon is going to take you through some of the challenges like follow us on social media, join the Discord, talk with people, and so on. Right? So just very casual stuff. The learn part is going to essentially take you through the wiki and the most important crucial elements of it, as well as quiz you on that. So there's definitely a nice learning experience there. And the third one is build. So we've seen in the past that going from 0 to 1 with Substrate was not the best experience. So we sat down and really thought hard about what can we do. Essentially, the culmination here is, and massive shout out to Jimmy and Sasha to building this. Essentially, what you've got is a series of challenges that takes you through the most important pieces of documentation, tutorials, guides, and so on, and can build up your knowledge with Substrate so that even if you just start out, you can essentially, within a couple of days, solve these challenges, tutorials, and move to, let's say, the 1. Obviously, from 1 to 10 or 10,000 or 10 million, it's a different, it's a different story, but this should get you started. Now, this is a gamified experience. You will solve challenges and you will earn points. The catch here is that the top 50 earners or the top 50 participants with the most points will get an amazing swag box. So myself, Jimmy, and Justin have been working really hard to get the best possible swag for you. So I'm not going to give away what we're giving away. But it's definitely something really awesome. I definitely want one of those boxes, to be honest. I've got plenty of Polkadot swag. But ultimately, I really want to stress this. Please dive into Polkadot Pathways. It's going to help you with the onboarding. It's going to be a really fun experience, a gamified experience, diving into the ecosystem, exploring it, and seeing what it has to offer. Now, how do you get started? Obviously, if you haven't registered yet, this is a QR code that you can scan. It's going to take you to the registration page. If you have registered, haven't been active, these are the essentially 3 steps that you can take. Join the Polkadot Discord, dive into the community, connect with other people, introduce yourself, tell people what you want to build, maybe what your skills are, and so on. Save the hackathon calendar. So with one click, as you register, Justin and his team actually send you out an email saying, click here, and all of these events, the events that we're currently on, will be added to your calendar. So that you don't miss out on the opening ceremonies, on the office hours, on the workshops, and so on. And obviously the last one, head over to Polkadot Pathways, especially for the people that are new here, it is for me it's just fantastic. I guarantee you will love it. Yeah. So head over there, have fun. If you have any questions in the meantime, anything like that, we will definitely be around. For this call, if you have questions, there's a button there, ask a question. You can put it in at the end. Me and Justin are going to be answering those questions as well. So without further ado, let me introduce the two speakers following me. The first one is going to be Radha, my colleague at the Web3 Foundation. He's a technical educator, and he's going to essentially introduce Polkadot to you, what it is, how it functions, and why you should be excited to be here. And our second speaker is Sasha. Sasha is a developer advocate at Parity Technologies. He is going to take you through Substrate. So Substrate is essentially the blockchain building framework that we use in the Polkadot ecosystem. And Sasha is extremely well equipped to take you through not just the basics, but actually some of the advanced stuff as well. So Radha, let me get you onto the screen now. Let's stop sharing my... There you go. Radha is going to be with us in a minute. Okay. In the meantime, really, if there's any questions, anything that you're not clear on, let it be just hackathon operations, dates, whatever, or just someone that maybe on the technical side, please use this opportunity to dive in and to ask a question. And here he is. Radha, thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours, really. Enjoy.
All right. So okay, I hope everybody is seeing my screen. I'm very excited to be here today. So I have 15 minutes to talk about Polkadot's vision and a brief introduction of it. So I'll try to do justice to that, okay? So let's talk about the vision of Polkadot. The key vision is to be fair, secure, and resilient web that protects user interest by design. Okay, so you all are hackers, and this is a hackathon. When you're working on Polkadot, if you see any sort of cracks in these three things that I mentioned there, feel free to let us know. But from the idea of conception of Polkadot, which was back 5 years ago, these were the three main things that were the focus of the project. So in today's presentation, I'm going to show you why we claim that it's going to be fair, it's going to be secure and resilient in a bit. So in short, our target is to have less trust and more truth out there. So the two key organizations that are behind Polkadot are Web3 Foundation, which is where I'm from, and Parity, which is where Sacha is from. He's going to talk like right after me. But yeah, so both these organizations have been working on this flagship project, which is Polkadot. So if you've been following like what's happening in the space recently, on October 13th, we unveiled the parachain slot auctions on Polkadot, right? So you all got the answer for the ultimate question, when parachains. So the wait is over. And as you can see, I want to highlight multiple things in this slide. So the first thing is the democracy. So Polkadot has this democracy module, which is basically code, which also has like a council. Feel free to go and check out like how that works. And this is one of the key features of Polkadot. As we are speaking now, there's actually a referendum that is ongoing. It's likely to pass, and if it passes, then we're going to have slot auctions very soon. So what's going on in Polkadot today? So if you are aware of Polkadot.js, which is like the JavaScript interface to the chain, you'll see this interface basically. So on the chain, you see that there are about 7 million blocks. Each block is being created with a target time of like 6 seconds. In total, there's over 1 billion dot tokens in circulation or in issuance. And yeah, so pretty much whatever events are happening, you can see them right there. And talking about like security, which is like one of the key parts of it, here are the validators who are securing the network, along with the nominators who are staking their dots to secure the network. So this is the security Polkadot is offering currently, and Polkadot uses proof of stake, just so you know. And talking about like decentralization, right? So you can see and visualize like all the nodes that are securing the network. They're spread across in geography, and we have several programs like 1,000 validators programs that are going to invite people like you to become like validators on the network. So yeah, and for the question that I've seen in the chat earlier, Polkadot is built on Substrate. So all the projects that are in the ecosystem, their focus is also to build on Substrate. So for instance, you see these different categories right here. So there are plenty of DeFi, NFT, smart contract, identity, privacy, bridge, and the list goes on. Plenty of projects that are being built on Substrate, and it is worth noting that they need not be connected to the Polkadot ecosystem too. You can create a blockchain using Substrate and have it like standalone. But yeah, so to become a parachain on Polkadot, it is very seamless if you choose to build on Substrate. So let's talk about the Polkadot architecture. So with like non-technical audience, like this is the slide where I spend a lot of time, but I'm pretty sure all of you are aware of blockchain architectures. So Polkadot is a layer 0 architecture, meaning it's if you think of like layer 1 blockchains like Bitcoin or Ethereum, so they are going to be on top of Polkadot, meaning so we are basically the term Ethereum killer doesn't really match with what we do. So we have the layer 0 relay chain. On top of it, you have multiple layer 1 blockchains, which are free to do whatever they want, like you see. And in this hackathon, you can pick from any sort of topic that interests you, and then you have this list of projects that you can look up to and check out like what they are doing, identify gaps, and sort of like fill out what you'd like to do in that respective area. Anyway, so we have Polkadot relay chain, and then we have parachains. So parachains are these blockchains that run on top of Polkadot, and things don't stop there. You can actually have L2 blockchains which are built on the parachains, right? And also, Polkadot plans to support para threads. Okay, so I'll get to this in the end because every parachain needs to have a slot. Para threads are going to have more flexibility. So very brief overview of what Polkadot is made of. Okay, so first of all, it's meant to be a scalable, interoperable, and secure network protocol, and every aspect is being checked off as we speak. So the thing is, I've shown you the validators who are currently like validating the network. So they're meant to be assigned to individual parachains that plug into the relay chain. They guarantee the security for all of the parachains. So the parachain teams can focus on their actual application logic, just the way you would be focusing on the application logic when you're participating in this hackathon. And then we have a bunch of collators. I won't get into the technical specifics. So they're going to basically tell the relay chain, okay, these are the transactions that happened in the parachain. Please validate them for us, and so on. And then you might ask, like, how does Polkadot Relay Chain facilitate communication with other blockchains that are already out there? So it's possible through bridges, and bridges are in development too. There is a Substrate repo dedicated to like bridges. And if you're specifically interested in Ethereum bridge, then there's a lot of content available for you too. Fine. So it wouldn't, I mean, I'm wearing the Kusama t-shirt, so it wouldn't be fair to just talk about Polkadot. So Kusama has played a significant role in making Polkadot what it is today. So Kusama, it's not a test network. I'll show you what test networks are later. It's a canary network. It has like real economic value. It has real stakeholders. And there's a lot of activity going on Kusama right now. So one thing to note is both Kusama and Polkadot are independent, meaning both of them have their own democracy, their own councils. But the underlying code itself, it's going to be first tested on Kusama, and then the stable version is going to move to Polkadot. Meaning we want to see Polkadot handling like enterprise level applications, and Kusama is where you, as a hacker or as a developer, would try to put your applications first, test it out in the real world scenario, make sure everything works, and then move it to Polkadot if you'd like to. Okay, so and then I want to bring your focus to the actual Polkadot testnets, which are West End. You can go to West End. You can get the tokens for free. There's a limit on how much you can get, but essentially it runs the same code as Polkadot. Okay, so feel free to check that. There are a bunch of tutorial videos too, which show you how to get started with testing on West End. And yeah, so if you're interested in parachains, there are others. If you're interested in smart contracts, there's Canvas that is out there for you. And yeah, given the time constraint, I'm not gonna go in depth into all of these key features of Polkadot, but this is really exciting for me, and I hope it's exciting for you too. Polkadot ships with this feature. By default, it's there to connect multiple networks together. It can handle like heavy traffic. If you look at the throughput of the entire Polkadot network with parachains running in parallel. So parachains are parallel chains, right? So things are running in parallel. There's a lot of activity going on. All of them are being put together in these 6-second blocks. So there's this industry-leading security. You'll see that the structure with which the nominators nominate the validators, and the way validators are picked, the random way in which they're picked. So this is going to ensure a high level of security to the relay chain as well as the parachains that it's validating. Enable custom-made platforms to be built for specific apps. So this is the focus for you. Substrate is the one that enables this. Sacha is going to shortly talk about it in a bit. And then finally, I have these two. So self upgrades, like forkless upgrades, you have seen like them already multiple times. The core logic of blockchain can be changed without forking. Okay, so there's this on-chain upgrades, and this is the important feature I'd like to mention to you, because Polkadot is about people, and people have their voice registered in a democracy. So we have a governance which lets like everybody put their thoughts into what the network should be, and the best part of this governance is that your proposal can ship with actual code, so that code can automatically upgrade the network once everybody agrees to like what you're proposing. Yep. So I'm gonna skip all this and just focus on what is coming next. Right now, the cross-chain messaging, the way parachains talk to each other, so that is being worked upon. So if you're following the Polkadot space closely, Gavin has published like multiple articles on XCM, what's the vision of XCM and how things might shape up. So cross-chain message passing is like an interesting area. All of the parachain teams are testing it right now on Kusama, and feel free to like check out those articles. And yeah, so another exciting thing happening right now are the auctions, right? So So the auctions in itself are fair, and the researchers at Web3 Foundation have put a lot of effort to make sure that the auctions go in a fair manner. And how can we ensure fairness on a blockchain which is sort of transparent, and there is this thing called as front running. So how do you eliminate all such problems? So people have at Web3 Foundation have come up with this candle auction where the winner can be chosen at any point of these blocks, chosen randomly by a verifiable random function. Okay, so what happens is this lets projects to be genuine with their bid. Okay, so they don't want to nuke everything at the end, so they'll come up with a honest bid right at the beginning, and everybody can have this auction, and the winner is picked at some point of these candle period randomly, and that's how they win. And to make the projects in themselves open and letting a lot of people bootstrap the projects on Polkadot, so there's this crowd loans feature that is available on chain. So the best part about this is you're not giving away your tokens to the project teams. They might actually run away with it, right? So instead, you're going to lock them for letting them lease the Polkadot slot, and your tokens are trustlessly returned back to you after the lease ends. Yep. So I just want to say lots of exciting stuff is coming on Polkadot, but you're all like developers and hackers, so it's interesting. It's important that you know how things are done on Polkadot. So I'm gonna hand off my stage to Sacha. He can go in detail on how things are done in Polkadot.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I've just invited Sasha on stage as well. Thank you very much. Parathreads. As we wait for Sasha, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so Parathreads are not live. The implementation is not live yet. Right now, we're just getting started with parachains, right? So we want them to be onboarded. They need to work on the network. And once we get to a problem where the parachains don't want to be a parachains anymore, that's when we need parathreads, where individual blocks are auctioned instead of the entire slot. Yeah, but there is still a long way to go before we look at parathreads code.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. Brother, that is it. I'm gonna take you off screen now, and we're gonna listen to Mr. Sasha Lansky. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I'm just gonna go in presentation mode. While I do that, I want to thank you, Abrin, and all of us being here. I'm super excited, that you guys get to get on this journey with us. We're trying to make it as easy for you to understand how to get involved, how to make the best of it. And so an additional thanks to Rada for presenting Polkadot, what Polkadot is, why are we here, and what can we do while we're here, right? So I think I'm going to really be addressing this second piece where we want to start building using Substrate. We want to start building Polkadot-like networks, potentially, becoming parts of the ecosystem. And what does that look like? So my name is Sasha Lansky. I'm a developer advocate for Parity Technologies. Parity Technologies is the main software engineering force that really is building these decentralized and open source technologies that we're using, right? Polkadot is using them. Kusama is using them. A bunch of projects are using them. And really the sort of engineering task force is Parity Technologies. You can contact me on my Elements channel. It's there, and also my Discord. I'm always happy to take questions. I'm somebody who wants to help you really learn, and if you are looking for resources that I can help you point to you, then I want to be able to make sure that you have all the materials possible. So don't hesitate to reach out. So I only have 15 minutes, like Rada, and I'm sure Rada, you thought the same as me, which is pretty challenging to fit everything in 15 minutes, right? Because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that's packed into, making use of these technologies. It really isn't just like, a couple pages in a book that we're reading here. It's really, just glossing over the introduction, right? We're just really like, what can we, where should I start reading in this book if I want to learn about X, Y, and Z? And I'm hoping to portray that. So in this first section, I really want to just give a high-level overview. What is Substrate? Like in the context of these other technologies that are being built with it, right? I really want you to think about, what can I do with Substrate, right? So at a very high level, Substrate is just it's a toolkit to build blockchains. So that really means that it's like saying, if I'm in my warehouse and I'm working on a table, a table, and I'm woodworking, right? What do I have? I have a hammer. I have my workshop. I have lights. I have all these things that will make it easy for me to build a table that I want to build. And I think it's important to really think about it that way, because it's not a software development kit that limits you and that only gives you access to certain libraries. With Substrate, it was really built modularly by design. By design, it has always been the mandate for adding to these libraries that are essentially the tools, and it's in such a way that it's easy to compose new business logic. So at a very high level, again, Substrate is modular. It's dynamic and it's adaptable. We're going to go into what these things mean, but essentially what it means is, by design, the Substrate is a collection of library that gives us these capabilities out of the box. We cannot sort of be in an engineering headspace where we're limited to doing certain things. For example, if we need to update something that today is so, and tomorrow is going to be really bad, and we need to update this thing, how can we update it in such a way that that everything that thing is built on doesn't break, right? So we have to be modular by design. We have to be adaptable too. The vision for Substrate, well, we're in a world where we want developers and engineers to focus on what matters to them, right? We want them to be focused on their business logic, right? We are in a world, we're painting this picture with Polkadot that every single application is its own chain. So the vision for Substrate is to enable developers to do exactly that. We want developers to focus on the business logic of their chains and nothing more. So that means that we need to provide, at least out of the box, some of this like very heavy lifting blockchain stuff that engineers will require to build their application specific chains. It's not sustainable to say, hey, go build your own blockchain, right? So with Substrate, we actually give you that out of the box. So Substrate allows blockchain developers to build domain-specific chains without the need to rewrite complex blockchain modules. Still kind of on the high level here. So I was very sort of, my approach here, I want to, in the next 2-3 slides, is showing you what other projects exist today with Substrate. So if you go to this link on the side at substrate.io/ecosystem/projects, you'll see this really cool UI where you can kind of browse through the different categories, right? It's like, like social networking chains or gaming chains or IoT. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm assuming some of you in the audience are completely new to Substrate. I'm also assuming that some of you are more excited about sort of maybe high level, like, what can I do with this? I'm not an engineer, maybe I'm not really a developer. What are the things that I can do with it? And the fact is that there's since we're building application-specific chains, there's so much to do, right? We really have to put our thinking caps on with regards to sort of what market verticals is my idea touching? How does it change? Because we're really, in this peer-to-peer technology, decentralized business models. What are we thinking about here? So this slide is just showing you the social networking applications built with Substrate. And here's an interesting one. And why is that? Because if you just browse through this page, you see that Polkadot is there too. So I want to bring forward to you this notion that Polkadot is just another blockchain that was built using Substrate, right? And really the beauty, or we are fortunate because Substrate was being developed in parallel with Polkadot. Polkadot needs new features. It's built as Substrate, but then we as engineers realize we can reuse these features for other chains, right? Again, we're building an ecosystem of blockchains. Every single application is its blockchain. So then, Substrate becomes this library that you can use and extend to whatever use case you want. Again, by industry, right? We have these industry, but this list is non-exhaustive. In fact, 5 years from now, who knows what this web page would look like? It's easy today to kind of separate them into, okay, there's wallet applications, there's smart contract applications, IoT, etc. But really, who knows? For example, the word relay chain wasn't even a thing 6 years ago. So I really want to invite you to get excited about what are the possibilities here. Diving into the technical components, at its core, Substrate has 3 core technologies, like heavy lifting technologies. It would be like in the analogy of the workshop building a table. Well, it would be like saying, you need to have a roof, you need to have your wood, you need to have your hammer and nails to build a table, the very bare minimum. And what is that for blockchains? That's a way to communicate in a decentralized peer-to-peer way. So at Substrate, within Substrate, we use libp2p. libp2p is that layer. Every blockchain needs to have a way to communicate to other nodes in a peer-to-peer way. The second is WebAssembly. If you Google WebAssembly today, you'll see that it's receiving a tremendous amount of attention because it's a really exciting web tool and innovation that web technologies is seeing, right? Whereby we can compile entire programs into what we call WASM and execute them within the browser. I'm not going to go into too much detail on what that means for Substrate, but essentially it gives us the capabilities of forkless runtime upgrades with other also applications to do with browser interaction. So for example, we have light clients that are very easy to use and connect with. The third really key piece is Grandpa, the finality gadget for consensus. So any blockchain has any blockchain must have inside of its core the ability to mine transactions in a block, right? The ability to have consensus within the chain. And the research team at Web3 have developed the consensus mechanism that every Substrate chain comes with out of the box. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what you have and that you will always have until you wait for a next upgrade from Web3 to include consensus mechanisms in your chain. No, it just means that that is what is out of the box for your application. It'll get you started, get you building your blockchain. If you want to change it over time, if you want to swap it out with some other consensus mechanism, then by all means do it. In fact, we have guides that show you how to build a proof of work based chain or a proof of stake based chain that doesn't necessarily use Grandpa. So at the very core, as developers here, I think now we're kind of going a little bit more into low level. So low level here, what are we looking at? We're looking at the anatomy of a Substrate node. So we're talking about blockchains. We're talking about Substrate. Substrate is a way to build blockchains. Every blockchain, by definition, needs to have a way to provide block finality. There needs to be some state transition functions that define the rules that blockchain is abiding by and which consensus agrees on. It needs to have a way to connect to the outside world. So that is the RPC server layer. And of course, I talked about libp2p networking, and that is also a very important part of a blockchain. Telemetry gives us the ability to monitor the node metrics, for example, knowing the transaction throughput of your chain, knowing the peers it's connected to, etc. So all of this comes out of the box. When you build a Substrate node template, you have this out of the box. So now the question is, what can I do with it? This is a great starting point, but what can I do with it? So the trait of Substrate being dynamic. Now I think this is just a very important point to lean on, because as builders, it's important to know, okay, what are the capabilities that Substrate gives me? Obviously, right? What is it? What makes it special, right? And so I talked about modularity, and I talked about adaptability, which we'll go in a bit more on this last point here for on light clients. But the fact that it's dynamic, what does it mean? It means that at the runtime, that means that's really the core of the blockchain. That means the runtime aggregates the business logic for your chain, right? It's like you have a smart contract suite that is, providing the application logic for an application. Well, every smart contract has the ability to change the state transition functions in that blockchain. Well, in Substrate, it all is happening at the runtime level, because as developers, you have control on what's happening at the runtime level of your blockchain. You actually have a big responsibility in that sense. So the state transition function is where the aggregation of logic for your blockchain happens. And we call these pallets. We actually, as runtime engineers, we have the out of the box, the ability to build pallets, very easy way to aggregate the logic of your blockchain. The runtime is also upgradable, because the runtime, in fact, all of that blockchain logic compiles to WASM, right, to WebAssembly. And with that capability, well, we can easily swap out a runtime as the chain is running. And that's fascinating. I invite you to do some tutorials, and you'll learn directly what that looks like. It's light client ready. Every Substrate node is light client ready. There's a phenomenally exciting technology that was presented at Sub-Zero, which was our developer conference last week, which is called Substrate Connect. And it uses the capability that every Substrate node out of the box has light client readiness, so that you don't need to actually connect to an RPC server. Your application does not need to connect to a centralized RPC server, because the light client readiness out of the box means that you connect directly to that blockchain, which is really fascinating stuff. And yeah, so on the note of storage, the storage layer is just a key value database, and the runtime itself is in storage. So from an engineering perspective, there is a lot of flexibility sort of out of the box, and the engineers that are building Substrate bear this in mind. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pallets. I need to wrap up soon, but basically, again, I'm just trying to pack in a lot here, and I want you to have key takeaways. The first takeaways, hopefully, we just went through is, okay, what's the big picture here, and what are the things that make Substrate unique? How can I get excited about building my Substrate blockchain? Now, I'm just going to present to you the ways that it is easy to do, right? How can we easily get started and write our own blockchain logic? Well, we have these things called pallets. And a pallet is really just a module written in Rust. Everything is in the Rust programming language in Substrate. And the pallet is where, as engineers, we want to write the application-specific logic of our blockchain. So, for instance, we have a pallet for ground path finality, right? That is an important part of every Substrate blockchain out of the box. It is really just a pallet. And we have a bunch of pallet that provides us with the stuff that I just presented to you. But now that I want to add a new pallet, new or unique application logic to my chain, well, what do? I want to, for example, write a minting function for some currency that I created. We have a very, very, very great, easy to use toolkit called Frame. Frame is just a way to easily write pallets that can talk to a runtime without needing to add too much code that's extra, right? So like, for example, 2 years ago, we didn't have Frame. It was much harder to write a pallet. Now with Frame, we are using Rust macros. So the declaration of your logic is very easy to follow. It's very well structured. So it simplifies runtime development. It enables composability, because I can write a pallet that does this one specific thing for my application logic, and then I'll write another pallet that does this other thing. And those pallets can talk together. They can talk to each other and borrow logic from each other. It handles events and errors. So all of your standard, interacting with a blockchain type functionality. And it provides out of the box the way to write dispatchables. So that is calls from outside of the chain and handling that logic. Also calls from within the chain. What it looks like is pretty much this, right? We have these pallets that we can compose and bring into our runtime. So I'm not going to go into that much detail on how it really works, but this is a nice slide to depict the fact that this is all happening, with using Rust's types and traits and APIs that are calling other APIs, right? To enable the fact that, you can write a function, declare the macro, write the function, and then immediately that function is out of the box gives you the ability to run a transaction for your blockchain, or from outside someone to run that transaction. And it uses the configuration trait. Every pallet has a configuration trait that gives your pallet access to all of these heavy lifting things for it to talk to within your runtime. Some of the capabilities that I think is really cool about Substrate and things that I haven't seen in other projects. Just this list here, I mean, it's non-exhaustive, but origins being the first that comes to mind. The fact that we can, at the runtime level, define what specific collection of people or accounts can do certain dispatchables, right? Really, it's like a primitive for governance, where we have multi-sig accounts for sure, but we can have, accounts that can get granted access to do a certain thing by design, right? This is on the runtime level. Very exciting feature that one can use with Substrate. Off-chain features meaning, Oracle-like networks. Metadata, out of the box, Substrate comes with metadata. So for you, front-end designers out there and developers, that is a very exciting tool to be able to touch, because you can, make your chain expose more pieces of information for your users to interact with. The weight system. I invite you to read about the weight system. The weight system is this way that, as runtime engineers, we are sort of forced to carefully think about the execution time of every transaction. Why? Because we have that control and we have that responsibility. We're not running on using the Ethereum virtual machine, for instance, where all of those checks and balances are done, right? So the weighting system provides ways to make sure that those balances and checks are done. I want to end on developer resources. I mean, we're here today. It's kind of like an overview, an introduction, hopefully getting you excited. And I hope that at least after this series of talks, you go and you're already maybe looking at our docs, right? So go and check out our docs. It's literally docs.substrate.io. And you'll learn a lot there. You'll learn a whole bunch of concepts that I quickly skimmed over, but you'll also learn about the tutorials and how-to guides. And there is this very exciting track for this hackathon called the Docathon track, where maybe you'll have ideas of like, how can I make this better, or how can I add to this, right? And I'm really excited about seeing those submissions, because that's really where the intersection of like learning something and wanting to really like make shine the thing that it makes it special, right? So like, what is it? It's in Substrate that you are, kind of illuminated about, and it makes you feel like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Well, how can you turn that into some meaningful documentation or tutorials or guides so that others then can share that experience too? So we have a bunch of builder tools. I kept it very simple, like, around the Substrate node, but there's a bunch of things out there, right? So we have out of the box a way to launch a parachain. I strongly encourage you to do the Cumulus workshop to learn that. We have smart contract capability. In fact, Parity is developing their own language to write smart contracts in this language called IC. Frontier gives you the compatibility for a chain. If you were to build a Substrate chain and you want it to be Ethereum compatible, then you would use these tools out of the box. And there's so many more tools, right? We're just skimming the surface here. Polkadot.js API is probably the best way to write front ends, where you can talk directly to your Substrate node. There's a bunch of client libraries. Substrate Connect is this new technology that I told you about earlier, where we are no longer relying on an RPC server. We're really trying to leverage this decentralized dream. Subkey, Sidecar, they're all tools where when your chain is in production, you can start using them to make more better benchmarking decisions and all sorts of metrics that you would want to have when you're in production. Well, so thank you so much. That was it for me. I hope I didn't go over time. I hope I didn't speak too fast. My aim was like, I want you guys to be excited. I want you to not hesitate to ask questions, right? This is a complex space. There's a lot going on. And we are here. There's Discord, there is Elements, there's a technical chat. I believe that, for this hackathon, we are all actually meeting on Discord. There's so many ways to, reach out. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. If you want to get involved, in parallel to this hackathon, tomorrow, for example, I'm on Substrate seminar. So join us on seminar. We just invite people to come from everywhere, wherever whatever your interest is, and just chat, right? Just hang out. Like, I pride myself at being part of this community where we're very people-centric. Like, we're building fantastic technologies, but it's so important, to have these values that kind of bring us together as engineers and developers. So thank you so much.
Fantastic, Sasha. This was truly awesome, and I think people really liked it. I think people also really liked your hat.
Yeah, I got a new hat, guys. So I thought I would show it off to all those people all around the world.
Awesome. So we do have a couple of questions. Maybe one thing to address, the rest you could take in the chat. Right. Rust and Substrate. Do I need to know any Rust before I go into Substrate?
Yeah. So I'll try to answer that briefly. Yes. Like, I will. So, like, think about it. If you want to start, like, coding up a web page, like, do you need to know HTML? Luckily today there's like so much great resources, so you could have like no experience whatsoever in HTML or CSS, but then still kind of figure it out, right? So my advice would be to read up on Rust. Rust has great resources. Rust has really, really, really great resources. Also a great community. And the HTML CSS analogy, I think, only serves the purpose of kind of encouraging you to learn Substrate and Rust at the same time, right? Where you should really at least like kind of know basic programming paradigms and understand how Rust does them, and then jump into our docs, right? Start looking at us as a Substrate node, and you'll see that a lot of the Substrate code base is Substrate specific, but a lot of it is using Rust paradigms and idioms that sort of really leverage the language that you would be missing out on if you didn't really know it. But I do want to finish with, don't let not knowing Rust stop you from learning Substrate.
Fantastic. All right, so Sasha's going to be around. If you have any other questions, Sasha, maybe just in the chat or something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to take you off screen, and Justin is going to...
Have a great hackathon, guys. We'll see you around. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Sasha. Justin, go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Sasha and Rahat, for the really, really quick overview on what Polkadot and Substrate is, and hopefully this will give you a quick understanding of what this hackathon really focuses on, and it kind of draws attention or interest to actually join this hackathon, especially if you belong to both the technical and even the non-technical side as well. Just on a side note as well, whatever that we have covered today in terms of the resources that's being shared in the chat itself, it's actually available in a resource section that is actually made available to those who have registered for the hackathon, namely that you will actually receive a copy of the participant guide, which is a comprehensive guide of all the information that you really need to know for this hackathon itself. Who are the people to reach out to, what are the resources that you can look at, and there's a checklist for you to make sure that you have kind of like go through all the lists to just make sure that you kind of get started for the hackathon as well. So just a quick recap on Polkadot Hackathon. We are going to start hacking on the 22nd of October, which is this Friday. And if you have yet joined us, I'm going to put the link over there. Once again, you can just click on the link to join us for the hackathon itself. We have more than $30,000 in cash in the prize pool, along with things like your Polkadot specs and lots of opportunities that's available for the winners itself. And similarly, it's actually a really comprehensive hackathon where, apart from building a blockchain, We have an opportunity for people to build tooling. There's also a Docathon where we try to capture as many different types of interest that we can at this hackathon itself, and really welcome all of you to join us as well. What I mentioned before, we have resources, be it those that are online that you can read through, you can try out, you can fork out from whatever that's already ready, to the mentors who are readily available on Discord channel, to reach out to them to kind of get you started, or even help you brainstorm, or just ensure that your projects are actually progressing well as well. Last but not least is really lots of networking opportunities, and just hanging there and really to join us at the hackathon itself. So once again, a recap on how do you get started is really step number one is to register the hackathon. Just scan the QR code that's on the screen, or you can click on the link that's on the chat itself to really register for the hackathon. You just kind of kickstart your journey. It can really be building a project, or even submitting a documentation to help people along and to understand as well. For those who have already registered for the hackathon, thank you. Looking forward to meet all of you as well. But the next 3 steps will be the next really important things that you have to take note of as a hackathon participant. 1 is to join the Polkadot Hackathon. 2 is to save the hackathon calendar so that you don't miss out any of our community events, workshops, mentor office hours, and networking sessions that's going to happen throughout the 7.5 weeks. And lastly is really to head over to the Polkadot Pathways. Similarly to the resources that's available, it's really a place for you to get started, to learn and to build along the way, so that it kind of helps you create a basic understanding, a fundamental for your project building as well. So before I end, I think I'll get Urban to kind of like cover some of the questions as well. While Urban, you're coming online, I think the key question that I would like to answer is really that non-technical participants are welcome to really join the hackathon itself. You can, as what Sasha mentioned, it's really for you to join the team so that you can contribute in the different aspect of the project itself. You can look at things like user experience, user interface design. It can also be how you can consolidate the projects together, have considerations of what this project should be targeting and all, so that your project will be a really comprehensive one. But if not, if your interest is really in terms of writing, in terms of documentation, then the Docathon will be somewhere that you can really look at.
I would expand on that really, Justin, just saying, if you think about what the end result or the end product, the end project is, it's really more than just code, right? The best hackathon submissions I've seen personally have always had good wording around it, good messaging, a video. Build a website, please build a website. People don't realize how important it is. It's a small thing, but it goes a long way. So as a non-technical participant, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. Don't worry about not having stuff to do. There's definitely plenty. But yeah, like Justin said, anything from like research to messaging, tweets, even producing a video, all of that stuff, right, is really, really immensely important. And you definitely can contribute quite a lot.
Yeah. So similarly, there's one question that asks whether or not this is just kind of like purely in Asia Pacific. Yes, in terms of operations and marketing, we are kind of mentioning that this is the Asia Pacific edition. But really, anyone globally who wishes to participate in this hackathon, we really welcome you to join us and really to participate in this as well.
Yeah. Look, guys, the goal of what we're trying to achieve is to really build out a community that is worldwide, and we can't do that all at once. So what we decided to do instead is do it chunk by chunk. Obviously, if anybody pops in from the US, from China, from Australia, as well as from Croatia, please do that. There is absolutely no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Urban, is there any questions that you think we should also address now that we have some time before we kind of like end off?
I think the team building part. So a couple of people asked about how to find a team member, how to connect. Maybe Justin, do you want to address that?
Sure. So what's going to happen is there is actually a free agent directory that's available on the participants guide as well. For those who have actually registered for the hackathon, this is really a space where all the people who are currently registered and don't currently belong to any team, their names will actually be out there on the free agent guides as well. And it's also where you will be able to know where they are from, at least in countries, and what are the skill sets that and even their experience level, so that you are able to find the relevant people that you really want in the team. Of course, there's no sensitive information in terms of personal email that's going to be out there, since that is technically a pretty public place as well. What you could do is really to try and reach out this person on Discord channel. But of course, if you really need help to get connected with this particular person, do reach out to me, Justin, and I'm available on Discord as well, so that we can find some way to get you connected in any case if this person is not on Discord.
Also, just hang out. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, it really just comes down to hanging out, being active, saying hi, introducing yourself. It's really not rocket science. We're going to have a bunch of these community events. There's going to be a bunch of, oh, just a second. There's going to be a bunch of opportunities to interact with the community. I think, Justin, you guys have planned a virtual hangout. There's going to be a raffle. There's a bunch of stuff that's planned. So really just be there.
Yeah, I think a hackathon is really a space. It's an opportunity for you to be involved in a specific community, I would say. And in this hackathon itself, apart from working on projects and the technical workshops is going to be available, we definitely have virtual networking sessions for you to get to know people, and to use the opportunity to form teams as well. And of course, we do have something fun, such as a trivia night, to kind of like just let your head down and kind of win some swags while you're just there. And it will just be really a bunch of really non-related questions to the hackathon for you to just kind of answer, and it's just something cool and fun. Speaking from someone that's not a dev background as well, and just really to encourage those non-technical people, I personally also find that learning is a great journey, and what better to learn sometimes is really to do a documentation. In all honesty, I think it helps to gather your thoughts together, and also helps to kind of like contribute into the community, and for more people to really get on board, because well, like what Sasha says, sometimes, the devs would probably really need some project management people around. And it's really a great opportunity for you to kind of like explore that talent and that interest as well.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, let's maybe wrap it up. Before we do that, how can people reach out to us? I think that's really, really important. Not just to you and me, but generally, how do we do that, Justin?
Yeah. So obviously, Discord will be the space to be, where everyone from the Polkadot side and also from the AngelHack side, such as myself, and another person, our community folk called Harish, will actually be on the Discord channel as well. This will be the key place that you can reach us by. Of course, if there is anything that you need to reach out via email. In any case, Discord is not really a really convenient space. I've actually put in chat my email address. I'll really be the key person that you can reach out to when it comes to the hackathon matters, or if you have further questions about the hackathon before deciding to register or whatnot. I'll always be happy to be there to kind of like reach out as well.
Cool, awesome. Then that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. If there's any more questions, I'll see you in the Discord. Justin will see you in the Discord. You have our emails. Thank you very much again, Justin, Sasha, and Rada for all these fantastic presentations. I wish you all happy hacking.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.